Welcome to Key Factors Podcast, where knowledge meets ambition in the fast-paced world of real estate and mortgage. I'm your host, Mark Jones, bringing you the latest insight, trends, and expert advice to navigate this dynamic property market. In each episode, we dive deep into the heart of the industry, dissecting market movement, exploring investment strategies, and unlocking the secret to real estate success. Whether you're a seasoned professional, an aspiring investor, or simply looking to stay ahead of the curve, this is the ultimate guide to making informed decisions in the world of property and real estate. So grab a seat and let's uncover the key factors that make all the difference. Welcome to Key Factors Podcast. Let the journey begin. And welcome back to another episode of Key Factors Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jones, and we are powered by ReviewMyMortgage.com, the largest index of mortgage programs in the nation. And with the continued value provided by this show, guys, we want to go into the investor side of things to shed some light for first-time home buyers, for seasoned investors, and maybe first-time investors getting into the market. Because what I've seen a lot lately is the idea of home affordability not being possible, but yet a half of my contracts that I'm receiving are from investors. And we're not talking corporate investors. We're talking mom and pop, second, third time trying to leverage their funds and understanding that property continues to gain value. So I've brought along two friends today to have a discussion and shed some light on some of the nuances and opportunities that are out there that you guys should know about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guests. I've got Nacole Ricks to my right. Nacole.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Doing well. And I've also got Tom Ochoa. Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Mark, doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having us here today.
Absolutely. God dang, you got a podcasting voice like instantly. So
Thank you,
guys. We've got Nacole Ricks from Align Properties.
Yes.
EXP is a spinoff of EXP, doing her own thing, killing the market. And Tom, her partner, that works currently with New Western. And New Western was something that I just recently discovered, to be honest. When you guys came into my life, that was the first time I had heard of something like that.
Wow.
So before we get into that, if you guys could just take a moment to tell us who you are, how you got in the business, and what you guys do for the time being.
Ladies
Who
first.
wants to go first? There you go.
Ladies.
Hey, what a gentleman. Who said Hillary is dead?
So Nicole Ricks with A-Line Property Groups, brokered by EXP Realty. Good friend, super excited to be here with my good friend, Mark. This is an awesome podcast, awesome discussion that we're going to have today. And overall, it's really to help buyers, help sellers, help people out there that are looking for alternative options. And this is a great opportunity for people.
Absolutely. Nacole, how long have you been in the business?
Been in the business for 8 years.
Okay, good deal. And operating just in San Antonio?
No, statewide. So started at the bottom and went to the top. No,
Now you're here.
literally from McAllen, and continued to tap into different markets: Austin, San Antonio, Waco, Dallas, Houston. And now our primary office is in San Antonio, but
Okay.
we still service the entire state of Texas.
Awesome. Tom, your turn, brother.
Absolutely, man. So I'm here in New Western, San Antonio. Been here for 5 years now.
Okay.
And New Western, when you say that you hadn't heard about New Western, it's kind of surprising. We're in 25 states, got a huge footprint. Our office did 1,100 assets last year.
Wow.
So we're all about helping, investors obviously come into the market and help them. A lot of opportunities with buying and selling on both sides. So what we do is obviously we help, savvy investors. Most of our stuff is off market.
Okay.
We buy direct from the seller. And what we do is we help to customers with problems. We look for problems. We don't necessarily go out and look for who's looking to sell or who's looking to buy. We actually look to solve problems, for customers.
Yeah.
There may be a situation where maybe they're getting a divorce. Maybe there's some issues with taxes that they may be having issues with. And we go in there and we figure out what's more important to them, what's most important to them, and come up with a solution. And, we typically, one of the things that we do very quickly is we close really quickly, typically within, a week or so. to give them what it is that they need so they can move on to the next chapter of their lives.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, we were having a meeting this morning with my loan officers, and this came up in discussion, the concept of wholesalers. Are you guys actual wholesalers?
No, we actually, the difference between us and a wholesaler is that we actually, when we come to the seller, we don't tell them, hey, we're paying cash for your vehicle. What we do is we tell them, hey, we're licensed real estate agents here in the state of Texas. We have a list of 8,300 qualified investors that we're going to go ahead and bring to your property. And we're going to go ahead and whatever figure you and I agree to, we agree to buy the property for $250,000. That's what we're going to do. And typically our properties, we typically 75+% of what we put under contract, we sell.
Gotcha.
So we get the actual seller what they need, and we get it quickly so that they can move on. They're not having to typically wait a month or so to get their money. Typically they get it in less than 2 weeks.
So safe to say it's similar comparison to, let's say, a mortgage broker on my side of the tracks, in the sense that they don't use their own money. They find the investor that the borrower's guidelines are met, and they facilitate that transaction between them. But these two never meet. You're the middleman in between making that happen.
100%. The difference between us and wholesalers, a lot of the wholesalers, and nothing wrong with wholesalers. They're great people, right? They're trying to make a living. They don't have, they don't have their license. And sometimes, they may not do things, 100%. We pride ourselves in doing everything 100% honestly and ethically, letting them know exactly and walking them through the entire process and guiding them from the beginning all the way to the end till they get the check and hopefully move on with their next chapter of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that first time that we met, you mentioned New Western, and matter of fact, Nicole and I nerded out. We were looking for different search phrases in Google to figure out, okay, how the hell are they cornering this market? Because they've got a pretty big footprint, come to find out after discovering them. And in order to have a solid footprint in all of the United States, you've got to have good reputation. You've got to be doing the right thing over and over and over. It's not overnight that you're on to the next deal and on to the next deal. This is a something that has been built over time and withstood the testament of time, so to speak, because you'll have customers that will second guess what you're sending them here and there, and you're like, guys, I'm not about to lose my license over one deal. Like, let's take it back here and know that I'm on your side concept. So it speaks volumes both to the company and you guys and what you do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we know a little bit about who you guys are. I want to talk about how much investing you guys are seeing currently in today's effed up market, so to speak. We're seeing a lot of first-time home buyers that are being beat out of offers or being discouraged because the payment is too high for what they're looking at. But yet, like I was mentioning, we're still seeing plenty of investors, and I'm not talking the corporate investors because I wouldn't be working with corporate investors. I work with individual borrowers on residential properties, whether that be a single family or multi-unit property. And those are coming in, and we're talking folks from this is my second investment property all the way to this is my 10th investment property. What are you guys seeing in that regard?
You want to touch on that, Nicole?
Sure. So there are tons of investors out there who are looking for good deals, just like any regular home buyer is looking for a good deal. The properties that are brought to the market are, again, people who need something quickly. That may be a person who's going through foreclosure, a divorce, something like that. So with that being said, they are below market value due to the fact of their circumstances. If you put a house on the regular market, premium price. But it takes time, money, energy, commissions, all of these great things. And so the number of investors that are in the market right now, especially in the Texas market and San Antonio market, is just numerous. I mean, just a New Western alone, which I'm not saying they're the only company out there. There is plenty of companies that are working with investors, but them alone has nearly 10,000 investors.
Wow.
When you're talking 10,000 repetitive investors.
Serial investors.
Yes, exactly. Serial investors. Maybe they're buying one a month. Maybe they're buying one a year. Maybe they're buying one a week. You know what? That's up to their own portfolio and their own goals. But these people are buying. They're either buying lots and building and selling. They're either buying, rehabbing, and flipping. They're also doing a lot of rental properties.
buying.
We talked about that a little bit, right? So the rental properties, they're buying, rehabbing, and holding. So their holding cost is going to be less because of the fact that they're buying this property at a lower market number or market price, not necessarily market value. And then they have the value add opportunity to build the equity in that property as well.
Right.
So there is plenty of investors who are looking to buy. It's really about finding the right type of investor for the right type of investment for their portfolio is what we're looking for.
And that makes good sense. So with there being so many options out there, I mean, you've got a owner of a property who is more than likely owning this as their primary residence, and they see it as a burden or an expense. And you've got another pool of folks, which is the smaller pool, yet with the bigger pockets, that see those as opportunities. And those opportunities can be, okay, if we get this property for X, we can put X amount into it and sell it for X, or we can get the property for X and hold on to it and allow it to build itself while it's also contributing to the revenue of paying it off or paying it back, et cetera, or even write-offs in that matter. There's so many different options or opportunities when it comes to the need that's to be fulfilled on the homeowner side. Let's talk about ways that these properties are acquired. You mentioned it a little bit, and I think you also mentioned it a little bit, but I want to kind of segment that in regards to where are you guys finding these properties? How does New Western go about this? Because you've seen wholesalers that will do the door knocking straight up. Hey, I see that you're late on your taxes. Are you open to having us pay it off and put a little cash in your pocket and we'll acquire the property and you can go on down the road? And in some cases, they'll say, you know what? We'll pay the taxes off. You sell me the property for X and you can stay there, but now you pay me rent. What are some ways that they are finding and acquiring these properties?
Absolutely. Well, Mark, a lot of what we do every day is relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So we have relationships with realtors. We find a lot of stuff on MLS.
Okay.
That's basically, opportunity that has been on the market maybe for a long period of time, stagnant, not doing anything. They come to us and, give us an opportunity to go ahead and bring some investors and buy that opportunity from them. Okay. That's one source. It's a big source. Another one is we go directly to the seller. We do a lot of advertising, online. We do a lot of, people will actually contact us on our agent pages or directly on Facebook, and they'll say, hey, look, I want to sell my home, give me an idea. We always want to figure out what is the most important thing to that seller. So we always invite them to our office, which is City View office here on Huebner and 10.
Okay.
So that we can meet with them. We figure out exactly what it is that they're wanting to accomplish with that property, right? But, we get with them, figure out what's more important to them, get everything written down, and then we go ahead and we start looking for exactly, if for some reason, typically, we'll have about 85 to 100 opportunities monthly.
Wow.
That come to the market.
Wow.
Right. But if for some reason, we have a buyer looking for something, we have two different teams in our office. We have what we call an acquisition team.
Okay.
And they're out there all day doing what you're talking about, knocking on doors, the relationship with the wholesalers, talking to realtors and acquiring these properties from the sellers. And then we have another team, which is basically a disposition team, which is what I do. Okay. And basically we go ahead and we sell these opportunities.
Gotcha.
To investors. All of what we do is either cash or hard money. Okay. And we have our own title company, which is Spartan Title. Okay. And we go ahead and we also do have hard money lenders as well. Mm-hmm. And so, they're welcome to use theirs. The reason that we use ours is because ours are super fast. We want to make sure that person is getting to the closing table and getting what it is they need. We don't want them to put down a deposit and not be able to follow through, not be able to close because this hard money lender that they're bringing didn't get them and finish closing the deal because there was maybe an affidavit of airship that needed to be signed that wasn't taken care of or something that wasn't taken care of. So that's what Spartan Title, our company, takes care of, and they really do a really good job of making sure to getting through all that and making sure that buyer, that seller is going to get what it is that they need at the end, and which is to basically get it closed and get it done.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I'll compare it to a realtor that has a preferred lender. And that is a myth that you can't recommend your preferred lender. You've got to give them a list of people. That's a myth that was never written down. It was let's try this as a best practice so you don't get in trouble. But the idea behind referring your preferred lender is, they're not going to drop the ball. And if they do drop the ball, how and where to kick them right in the tail when it's time, versus attempting a new title company, a new lender, a new hard money lender. They've got to learn your process. They've got to learn what the hell they're doing in many cases on this scenario. And it just could end up being a nightmare in the end, hence more money for that buyer, for the investor, etc. So I'm a fan of using people that work. The concept of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
100%.
If it does break, find another one that you can replace literally the same way that you acquired the first one, because there's a reason why it didn't break to begin with.
That's right. 100%.
So regarding the acquisition side of things, we are looking at people who are in all different types of scenarios. You're talking about people, like we mentioned, that were getting a divorce, that may have been going through foreclosure, who are behind on their taxes.
Yeah.
People who inherited property, people who passed away. These things that happen in everyday life that can totally destroy the opportunity for that owner to pay for their property, to pay for those taxes, to pay for that stuff. If you inherit something and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what to do with this. I've never even been there, or I don't have the money to pay the taxes on it, or now there's a mortgage. What do I do? There's all of these sudden problems that you have to deal with in the midst of a loss.
Yeah, no, you are right.
That's where a lot of it comes from, is that these people don't have the time, the money, the energy to go into a regular selling market, putting it with a realtor, going on to MLS, selling it, showing it, eventually getting it under contract, and then selling it for a premium price, which is where most people are looking. That's Zillow, Realtor.com, all of these websites that are IDX. That's feed
the mainstream market.
Exactly.
Bunch of liars, like the mainstream media.
That feed these properties from MLS.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the properties that, most of the properties that these investors are buying are not on MLS. Now, yes, some of them are. They're great opportunities that maybe the realtor wasn't doing their job to get that property sold, or maybe they never had the conversation with the client of, hey, do you really need to sell right this minute? And if they would have had that conversation, they might would have known that, hey, this isn't the price we need to go for. We need to go for a different price. And or situations can change.
Yeah.
You can be, hey, I represent this seller, and all of a sudden their husband passed away, or all of a sudden they get really sick. Now their situation completely changed overnight, and their need has now changed overnight. And so those are opportunities where, New Western goes in and acquires properties at a specific price. And that's where the seller knows what they're getting.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's not just going on the market on MLS. I'm going to get offers for whatever price, and I have to then decide yes, no, maybe negotiate. And I rely on my realtor to help advise me on that. And realtors do an amazing job. I'm a realtor. He's a realtor. We do amazing jobs in advising them. But not a lot of realtors are educated on the investment side.
I agree 100% with that statement. Yes. And that's mostly the reason why I wanted to bring you guys on, to share some insight and also to share its complications, because it is not something, it's reminds me of when a realtor for the first time takes on a commercial deal, but have never done it before, anything like that. And they're thinking that it's just going to be just like a residential, that rude awakening.
Totally different.
Yeah. So I want to go into, there was something that you mentioned, which was the cash or hard money. What is the reason for that? I know the reason, but I want you guys to kind of get that articulation out.
Absolutely. Well, the main reason is so we can close in a shorter period of time.
That makes sense.
You've got a seller who is in a distressed situation, whatever the situation may be. I had a situation here last week where we were offering a 14-door multifamily, and the actual seller passed on. He passed away. Wow, and so the situation obviously goes, they have their actual son, their daughter who gets involved and all that. But the reason we do that and we go in there and we're able to buy this asset at typically a discounted price is because we go in there and we close in a very short period of time, typically less than 14 days. We pay cash or hard money, right? And then so The person who buys a property then has the opportunity, depending on what their strategy is, whether they want to turn around and flip it and then go on to the next project, or whether they want to turn around and want to go ahead and cash flow. Like Nacole and I, we're both investors. We have a couple of properties here in San Antonio, and we specialize in short-term and mid-term rentals.
Makes sense.
Hold on to our properties, and we like to go ahead and cash flow them and so on and so forth. But just depending on what the strategy is. But the reason to answer your question is so that we can close in a shorter period of time versus having to go through all the hoops. And sometimes, proof of income, proof of residence, we do it every single day, right?
Absolutely.
And so typically when they're doing a rehab, it's 6 months. And then, before the 6 months is up, if they decide they want to go ahead and hold on to it, then obviously they'd come to someone like yourself who's an expert in your field and go ahead and refinance out of it and hold on to it. Or go ahead and sell it and make the money out and go on down the road.
That's right. Now that makes good sense. And for those that are wondering why hard money is close to cash, is in the market on the selling side, hard money is almost the same as cash. You're dealing with a private investor that is going to cut you the check. In some cases, they're going to take lien position. It will be a higher interest, much shorter term with a potential balloon associated with it. But that investor is taking out this hard money because they're experienced in many cases and willing to take that risk in the short-term losses for the long-term gains, I should say. I myself, me and Kristen used hard money when we were doing our flips, and it worked great. We essentially would use the hard money to buy the house, $200,000 to $300,000, and then use our funds to rehab it. And boom, lo and behold, it was ready to go faster than what you would use hard money to do the purchase and the rehab at the same time.
Absolutely. And of course, you just figure in your cost, depending on, you're going to borrow X amount of dollars. You figure, hey, 6 months for us to go ahead and flip it at this payment, this is what it's going to cost. So, a lot of people think, well, they get caught up in the interest rate. Oh, the interest rate's too high, it's 10%, 11%. As long as you just figure that into your total rehab, okay, and you're not really paying for it. The person you're selling it to is basically taking care of that.
You're exactly correct.
You just have to just plan on all that.
Well, also keep in mind, we are in this to make money. And if you're making too much money without enough expenses, you're going to get whacked. So,
Uncle Sam.
That's right. So you got to find the good expenses that help you get to the next stage. And whether that be continuing to buy additional properties, leveraging it over to buy properties to hold, who knows what your end game is. But I can tell you that there is more than likely a next move when it comes to getting properties like these.
Absolutely.
Now, the other reason that most people, when they're in a distressed situation, are looking for a quick close, cash or hard money is because of the fact that there's less risk for that deal to fall apart.
True.
When you've got a 30 to 40 day close, a lot of things can happen in anyone's life in 30 to 45 days. And with that being said, that is a higher risk for the seller. So what they're looking for to be able to get out of their situation at that discounted price, they are looking for guarantees. They're looking for things that can, okay, great, I'm going to get out of here. It's going to be done. Versus it being where, well, it's on the market, we're under contract, we're going through financing. You see things happen every day.
I mean, I'm glad you said that. And those of you that are listening and paying attention, this is the moment where you grab something, you either put it in your notes or you write it down so that you can remember, because your brain isn't for remembering, it's for solving problems. But the idea and the concept is time kills all deals. At the end of the day, the longer it goes, the less chances it's actually going to close. So
Amen.
I'm glad that you brought that up.
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay, so we've talked about the wholesale difference between what you guys are doing and what you offer versus wholesale, and there's a distinct difference between the two. I want to ask why someone would use you guys versus just going online and finding properties and doing what they can. I mean, I know the answer to this, but if you guys could share, because there's a lot of folks out there that are I would say maybe targeting realtors in the sense of, what's your value? What am I paying you for when I partner with a realtor? What advantages am I getting out of this? And why is that something that I cannot do on my own? That's in a market and in a world these days that everything is at our fingertips. They can jump online and find anything they want, or so they think. This is something that I think you guys can be very clear in regards to why can't I just do it by myself?
Absolutely. Nicole, you want to start on that and then I'll finish it up?
Absolutely. Experience.
Okay.
So I remember the day when you could Google something and actually get a real answer.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Now you Google and you say...
It used to be conspiracy theory. Now it's consistency theory. Yeah.
So now you Google something and you go through all these articles that you think are pointing you in the right direction. And it's really just a paid comparison or a paid blog or a paid whatever. And it looks so real.
You're right.
And that comes to everything in life. We're not just talking about real estate. We're talking about everything.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, you know, having a realtor who's actually in the trenches, who's already gone through the training, gone through the experiences, talked to the people, learned the lessons to be able to really achieve what the seller's looking for and to be able to bring the right investors to the seller in that aspect. It's priceless because you don't have to go through the headache, the turmoil, the leading you down the road that never ends.
Well, not to mention the things that you guys spoke about in the beginning of this on how you acquire and find these properties. I think people take that for granted. They think that there is, I remember there's a huge uproar. I'm going to buy foreclosures. I'm going to buy foreclosures. Where are you finding them? Well, we're going to look on MLS. No, dummy.
That's not true.
You're too late if you're looking there. And then you've got people that are buying on the courthouse steps. But there are so many other opportunities. And one would say, shame on you for going and buying that house from those people versus the alternative of them foreclosing versus the alternative of them continuing to not be able to pay the taxes, not be able to pay the repairs, living in the current situation that they're in. And then they get foreclosed on anyway because they're late on their taxes multiple times.
Exactly.
You know?
A lot of times they are getting money.
Oh,
It's not a subject to, let's be very clear. We're not talking about subject to where they're most likely not getting a lot of money from their home. If these people have been in the home, 10, 15, 20 years, which a lot of these people have, they take money with them. They're paying off those taxes. They're paying off whatever it is, and they have the relief. So what are we really doing? We're helping them.
I agree. Yes. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to articulate here is people see wholesalers. They see what you guys are a little bit more established than a wholesaler. So I'm not going to put you in the same category, but it is the same concept. And they see it as, well, you guys are opportunists and you're taking advantage of people. Are they really, or are they not giving them a bone? Like, here's the rope. I'm not giving it to you for you to hang yourself. I'm giving it to you because I'm going to be pulling from the other side concept.
Correct. It's an opportunity. What are that's why we like to meet with our investors and our sellers and visit with them and figure out exactly what their main thing is, what they want to accomplish. Right. We sit down. What's the most important thing to you? Well, I want to try to get this squared away because I just, my dad passed on and, I have my family in a completely different state. I'm set on my payments. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Now I've got $12,000, tax bill.
Yeah.
And I can't afford it, so let me go ahead and let's, find a solution to your problem. Let's go ahead and get it sold quick. Okay. So that you can go ahead and get your money, pay off the taxes and move on to the next chapter of whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah. And that's pretty clear, absolutely.
And the other thing I want to mention there is the longer this person is in this situation, the worse it gets.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So I have
time kills all deal and people.
Yes.
Weird, huh?
Yeah, the interest doesn't go away or the taxes don't go away. They just
death and taxes. That's right. Yeah.
When things are already bad, they just keep getting worse. I had a family that she had an IRS lien against the house that was from her ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's one little problem. That's not really like a huge problem.
Right.
It's a little problem. Okay. Now she's 2 payments late behind and she's going to be foreclosed on.
Yeah.
Okay, she borrows the money to get it caught up. Fix the problem for a little while, right?
Yeah.
But wait, now she's got a lawsuit from her HOA.
Mm-hmm.
And wait, it just keeps getting worse.
Right.
So if you're in a situation like that, you need to know how to get out.
I agree.
Versus just wasting your money, because that money is not going to you. That HOA lawsuit is not going to help you.
Right.
That those late payments are not going to help you. She had never had a late payment before. She could have gone and bought another house.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
because that happened, now here we go.
Yeah, minimum 12 months she's going to wait to even be considered for another property, unless she goes hard money. And guess what? They're
Right.
not lending to you either.
Yep.
Not for primary residence.
Correct. Yeah, that you make a great point there, that a lot of folks in this situation don't know what to do. And unless somebody like you guys stumble upon them, they
Right.
don't get the relief that the others do. I don't think that there's like, you go online and say, help me solve my bigger issue.
If I can interject something, it's
Please.
all about having options,
Okay.
and sometimes, people don't do it because they don't know that there's an option. They don't know that there's another opportunity. I
It's so
talk to investors.
strange. It's weird that I talk about this concept even with first-time buyers. They're scared to even apply for
They're scared
their
of death.
options
They don't
because
know.
they don't know there's options. Yeah.
Exactly.
Keep
So
going.
you talk to investors every day and they're like, well, I don't know. I only have, $60,000 cash saved right now. And I only have $80,000 in my 401k. I don't think that I'm ready. Hey, let me share with you what an option would be for you. Let's look at a hard money option and let's take a look and let's take that money, and instead of maybe buying one property, maybe we buy two properties.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you turn around and you refinance and you take that money out. And there's so many different options, but you don't know if you don't ask. So, we always welcome an opportunity to sit down and interview, figure out exactly what's the most important thing to them, and give them some different options and help them to understand, hey, with that money, you don't have to pay completely cash for this asset. You can go ahead and you can borrow against it.
Yep.
And then you can turn around, instead of buying one property, you can buy two. And we actually did that a couple of months ago. We had a property up in Spring Branch that we went ahead and we sold. We did a 1031, and instead of just buying one home, we actually bought two.
Makes
So
sense.
we used hard money, and we used, what was the other one that we did? Was a DSCR?
It was a DSCR loan.
So it worked out great.
Now, DSCR has been coming up quite often in conversations, and I myself didn't even start doing them up until about a year ago, when rates started coming up and first-time home buyers started drifting away. And here we go. Here come the investor phone calls. Hey, I'm looking to park some money somewhere. I may or may not qualify. Why? Well, I haven't filed my taxes yet, or my debt to income ratio is too high. Why? Because I've got multiple rental properties, or many different reasons. But a DSCR loan gives two shits about your income.
That's right.
It cares what you're doing with that property and how you're going to generate income or revenue for that new asset to pay for itself and then some.
It's an option a lot of people didn't know existed.
Right.
Talking about options, you've got options on the seller's side and you've got options on the buyer's side.
Yeah.
And if you're on the, I'm in a desperate situation seller, or if I'm in hey, I need to park money somewhere.
Correct. No, you're on the money.
My properties, I need to find these good properties and these loan options. And people with the hard money loans sometimes don't realize that that's not forever.
Correct.
Hard money loans are such a temporary short period of time that you're paying a higher interest, or you're paying whatever it may be that is a little bit higher.
Right,
Yes, it's
right.
a premium, but at the same time, it's temporary.
Mhm.
You then can refinance that property into many different options. And I think that that's a great thing to start educating people on, not just as investors, but as those first-time investors.
Yeah. I
Hey,
agree.
you know what? I don't qualify for 2 mortgages. What do I do? Well, a DSCR loan is a great option.
Yeah.
If you
And I
don't
think that
qualify.
the first question to that, if somebody says, I don't qualify for 2 properties, is what is your intent of the second property? I think intent isn't, no, it's possession is 9/10 of the law. Whoops. I think intent is something that gets overlooked too often. People don't ask the questions to be able to provide those options and solutions to whatever problem that is there. And in this case, it's like, okay, if you are planning to generate income from this, from buying it real quick and selling it real quick, well, then know that DSCR is not an option for you. But if you are planning to hold this and let it pay for itself, and continue to build that portfolio based on that concept, DSCR all day long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matter of fact, there's 2 different types that allow you to either do long-term rental or short-term rental. And now that we've had a little time in this market, we've got comparables for both, Whereas before I compare it to barndominiums. still to this day, it is tough to finance a barn dominium. Why? Because there's no comps yet. Nobody knows what it's truly worth when you go and buy that land and throw this massive warehouse, yeah, exactly, onto it, because there are not comparables to that property. Now, it takes a herd of folks that risk their cash to essentially create that market, then there are comparables for it. But that only works for the certain area in which that happens. I mean, you can't take a comp in Houston and compare it to San Antonio. That just doesn't work, you know? So you guys mentioned something about a bigger picture, bigger concept. I'd like to talk about bigger pockets for a moment. And I know that that is an avenue or a resource, but I didn't dive deeper into any of it. Would you guys like to indulge us on that?
We love it. We use it, every day. As a matter of fact, I was reading a thing on Bigger Pockets today. They had an article. They were talking about the 25 hottest markets, and they're talking about all of the southern states, pretty much California all the way to Florida, and Texas, and how everybody's moving and migrating because lesser cost of living, warmer, climates, just a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And a lot of the northern states like New York, I mean, a lot of those people are migrating down here because it's just cost less to be down here, better weather and so on and so forth. And I was reading an article about that. It's very interesting. The city that we're actually from, which is McAllen down on the south, Texas is number 3 right now, one of the 3rd hottest markets right now in the United States. El Paso, another border town.
Yep.
And so it's just
ability. The weather's great. The cost of living. There's just so many factors, and there's still opportunity down there.
Absolutely, 100%. They were talking about that. So great opportunity. And love San Antonio. San Antonio market obviously is just amazing. Obviously we're biased because we live here, but we love it.
Absolutely. So back to the bigger pockets thing, because starting right now, this is like my interview with them. So I'm going to send it to them and say, hey, you need a new guy?
Bigger Pockets is a great way to educate yourself. It's a great way to build a community. It's a great way to find investors who are like-minded. It's a great avenue. It was definitely needed in the investor community. And I think it fills a huge void. It would be a great thing to have that type of same concepts in a lot of different industries and a lot of different sectors. But it definitely educates you, even though we don't necessarily do a lot of long-term rentals, which the majority of investors do.
Sure.
We do short-term, midterm rentals. There are still a lot of people that are going to be talking as far as forums, blogs, questions, all of that within the Bigger Pockets community about all types of things. They're asking about short-term rental. They're asking about long-term rental, about different markets. And that's a great opportunity for you to be able to engage in those conversations, build the relationships if you're, seeking investors to partner with, if you're seeking investors to sell properties to, if you're seeking relationships, it's definitely filled a lot of the need for that communication.
Absolutely. And most that are listening, if you are a consistent podcast consumer or YouTube consumer, you may have come across Bigger Pockets as the podcast where they have a couple of different anchors, so to speak, that provide insight on investment strategies. They go layman terms all the way to pretty advanced. But going a little deeper into that is a community of forums and groups that they get to share ideas, they get to share opportunities, investment strategies, etc. So there's the surface level of value, but then there's something deeper within Bigger Pockets that they've created that you guys are a part of. And I know that it's a melting pot of, like I said, opportunities that you would not have had otherwise.
There's no doubt. That's a plethora of knowledge. We use in the Airbnb DNA, where we have put in a property address. We have a lot of investors like, hey, we're thinking about short-term rental.
Yeah.
What does this opportunity look like? Well, not a problem. There's a place on Bigger Pockets where you go and put in the property address in there and ask you 2 simple questions. How many people are going to be sleeping there? How many bedrooms it is? And voila, it gives you a total amount on, hey, this property can make up to $60,000 per year.
Wow.
Which is unbelievable.
Wow.
And so, you share that information with your investor. Hey, look, do you want to make $30,000 a year on traditional renter? Or do you want to make $50,000 a year on a short term? So obviously the STRs, obviously there's a little more risk involved, but I mean, we make 35 to 45% more per year on our short-term rentals. There's a little bit more turnover involved.
course.
Obviously, housekeepers coming in and out and so on and so forth. But we figure all that and we factor all that into our expense. And at the end of the day, it works out great.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Definitely say that it depends on the market as to how much more you would make, but the rule of thumb is definitely 2 to 3 times gross. So that's a great number for people who are interested but don't really know what that looks like. It is more work, no doubt, but it's typically 2 to 3 times gross. So if you're making, $12,000 or $24,000 a year on traditional rental, again, this is gross. You still have some expenses. You're making a lot more profit margin on a traditional rental if you've put a really good down payment on it. But on the short-term rental side, it can actually gross about 3 times more, and it usually profits anywhere in the number of 6 to 8 times more. It's quite a bit more than because of the actual profit that you walk away with
Right.
After paying off that mortgage, after you paying the expenses to maintain the property, and the property stays in better condition.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
it's a win-win situation, but it really depends on the market. Some markets are really, really good, and other markets are
It's
not
true.
so good.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you've got an attraction, so to speak, that
That's right.
they're coming for consistently in different locations, the market's going to be okay. Because let's face it, despite whatever the market is doing, there are still people that want to travel and want to explore and want to experience different things.
Absolutely.
And that gives them an alternative option to staying in a hotel. Let's be honest. If you've got your pets with you, if you've got multiple kids, ain't nobody trying to bring all that with them. But many times they would love to, but they just don't. But now the idea of the short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, it opens up the door to being able to experience that as a family together or something like that.
100%.
And, the Bigger Pockets has a lot of different calculators. Now, this is not just short-term rental. That is a short-term rental resource,
Sure.
but there are tons of rental calculators on there. There is cash-on-cash calculators. There's a lot of different avenues for you to be able to analyze a property without necessarily having to dig in real deep. You can get a surface level analysis pretty quickly. And then if it meets certain criteria, dig further versus wasting a lot of your time. And that's really a part of being with realtors, or in our case, we're very experienced in this. And if you're looking for a partner to show you the ropes, that's exactly where this podcast here we're talking about today comes into play, because of the fact that that's something that sets us aside. If you need resources, we've already done all of it.
Yeah.
I could have Googled for years, and I'm sorry, I would have never found Bigger Pockets,
Right.
like that calculator that I needed.
And there's a reason for that. When you create something that adds value, you better charge for it and give it the value that it deserves. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you give everything away for free, people will take it for granted, and then it won't get used. So that's the truth of the matter. I mean, you go to those seminars and you don't pay anything, and the ones that you actually pay for, you make sure you get something out of it, right?
Absolutely.
So last question that I have for you, and it's more of a concept of when dealing with the first-time investors, and I think that is more so who would maybe be listening to this, first-time, second-time investors. What advice would you give to them? Because my advice would be start with the end in sight. And what does the end look like? We never know what the end looks like, but you can at least paint your
You have that magical
picture.
crystal ball.
Yeah, no, man, I left mine at home.
What happened?
Home. That 8 ball.
Hey, that's a different kind of ball we're talking about, bro.
So the idea behind starting with the end in sight, you can never paint it exactly what it's going to end up being. But if you don't know what that looks like in your mind when you start, how the hell are you even going to reach it? I think if you are planning to become an investor, and I'll be honest, when my wife and I started investing, we didn't know what type of investor we were going to be either, but it was like, okay, we don't have a ton of money, so let's convert this one to an investment property. And now we're long-term renters or long-term investors. Fast forward several years after purchasing several long-term rentals, it was like, okay, we've got some change saved up. Now we can become flippers, short-term, etc. And we let that dictate what our end game was going to look like. But for others out there, what advice would you give to them?
Good strategy. Depending on obviously what they're trying to accomplish, but always like what you're talking about, what's going to look like at the end. You don't want to get a first-time investor into a full rehab. It's going to be $100,000. Especially when we have investors, a lot of them in different states come in and doing something. We want to go ahead and we want to help them with a smaller project.
Yeah.
Maybe a $100,000, $115,000 home, something with a light rehab. And what I mean by that is under $30,000, $40,000. Something that may need some cosmetics, maybe some walls, maybe some floors, something simple. Where they can get a base hit and be able to make a little bit of money. We want them to do well, maybe get a double off the wall instead of just not doing anything. That's what we would recommend to a first-time investor. Kind of get your feet wet, kind of get started, kind of, especially if you're using hard money, build a relationship with a hard money lender, and figure out exactly, hey, this is what I need to come to the table with. This is what it's going to cost me per month. This is how much money I'm going to make. And put them, real estate. It's all about, and this, having a house in a great location.
Yeah.
And then having a home where basically you can go in there and just rehab it and then turn around and flip it or do whatever it is you plan on doing with it. But just something that's not going to be a big rehab, something that's not going to cost a ton of money to get their experience going and then moving forward in the right direction. And once they make that money, move on to another one. And once they get going and experience and maybe go on to another one, maybe it's a little bit bigger rehab. Maybe it's a mid rehab or maybe it's a $100,000 rehab, where there's more opportunity. Typically on those larger ones, and this, Mark, on these larger rehabs, typically there's more meat on the bone.
Sure.
As far as there's more money, more margin, but on the first time investors finding an opportunity in a good location, that's not going to cost a lot of money to get going and get your experience level going, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, as they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Right? So, Tom, you had put a quote on the Book of Faces yesterday, maybe the day before, that resonated with me, and I wanted to read it for the guests.
Absolutely.
And this is, matter of fact, in the editing process, I'm going to throw up an image. You can see it right here. No, that's probably not what you're thinking. It is a bar of silver, okay, guys, and that's what it is, right?
That's exactly. It's actually just an iron bar.
An iron bar. Very good. Okay, so follow along with me on this, guys. The following goes. This is a 1,000-gram iron bar. The raw value is around $100. If you decide to make a horseshoe, its value would increase to $250. Instead, you decided to make sewing needles, the value would increase about $70,000. If you decided to produce watch springs and gears, the value would increase about $6 million. However, still, if you decide to manufacture precision laser components out of it, like ones used in lithography, is that right?
I think that sounds right.
Okay, good deal. It would be worth $15 million. Your value is not just what you're made of, but above all, in what ways can you make the best of who you are? And that resonated with me like nobody's business. It is the same concept of, is this just a pen? Some may see it as just a pen. Others may see it as the tool that they use to write the next deal. Others can see it as multiple different opportunities. And I think in order for people to start seeing different perspectives and different ways and opportunities, they've got to open their mind and hear different perspectives from other people that then promote different ideas that then become shareable, usable, and profitable in many cases. And until you're open to trying new things, until you're open to taking risks and knowing that failure is a part of the process, if you always do what you always done, you're always going to get what you always got.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
100%.
Yeah.
Talking about failure and being a part of the process of any kind of growth, a lot of first-time investors, we were really, when you talk about a first-time investor, this is typically a person who is a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
They are looking for their next thing.
Correct.
How do I continue to build on what I have done? And 100% of the time, they are afraid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of the time, they are afraid to move. They kind of freeze. They overanalyze. They make it too big of a deal, and they end up missing out on a really good deal.
Yeah, analysis by paralysis.
Exactly. And then there's the other side. There's the one who jumps off the cliff and hopes that the parachute is gonna open. Like, okay, dude. Like, but you know what? I gotta say, kudos to that person.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone needs to be the one who, not drives off the cliff. Don't drive off the cliff. Jumps off the cliff. But really and truly, it is about jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the end is going to look like. You just need to have a picture in your mind, like you said.
Yeah.
The picture of what the end is going to look like. And as time goes, that will continue to evolve.
That's right.
Your first project may be a flip that's super small and cosmetic, and your dream is to be this incredible luxury home and designer. Okay, well, you know what? That first flip is a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to jump from 0 to 100. That takes time and growth. And so those little things that you're doing may not be exactly what you love, but it's an opportunity to learn, and that progress will continue forward. And I just encourage everyone to just do it scared.
I like that. I've got a final thought here that you just provoked, and it is the concept of losing in flipping. Okay. And I'm going to compare it to college. And the reason why is because college costs money in hopes that you're going to get this piece of paper and be able to utilize it to make a life for yourself.
You mean there's no guarantee?
No guarantees, not a single one. Yeah, not a single one. And in that aspect, you spend how much on college? I mean, $40,000 a year, $20,000 a year. That
depends on the university.
Exactly.
We have one at Baylor and we have one at University of Texas.
There you go.
Big difference.
How much you pay?
A lot.
So that in itself, that concept, the idea behind why you're paying, is it just for the piece of paper? No, it's for the value that you get out of that experience, whatever it may be for each individual. So I'm going to compare it to flipping. If you go and flip your first house and you happen to lose 40 grand your first time, did you lose?
No.
No, in my opinion, you didn't. You only lose if that was the only flip you ever did.
Right.
Or are you going to take that $40,000 loss and go, okay, now I know what not to do. I got a $40,000 education on how to flip and how not to flip, and move it on to the next. And let's say your next one, you lost 20 grand. Shit, I'm 60 grand down. But you know what? You're a little bit further along in that learning process and in the education of something tangible that you can utilize to go and get that 60 grand back on the next one.
And I can nearly guarantee that it's going to be cheaper than a college education.
I would have to agree with you on that. Well, guys, thank you for joining me on this. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add?
Just
Thank
a
you
pleasure.
for having us.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Pleasure to be here, man. You know, and I've always been a firm believer, and I've always been God has a plan for everybody, right? And if you look at it as glass half full versus glass half empty, I've always been positive. If you think positive thoughts, positive things happen.
Can I change your mind today?
Absolutely. Come on.
How about a glass that's refillable?
I'm in.
Guys, thank you so much. Those of you listening, I hope you got something out of today. There was plenty of nuggets that you could pick up and actually apply in your everyday life, whether you are a first-time home investor or a seasoned professional that's doing this. Maybe you're on your third or fourth, and maybe you got lucky on your second and third, and now looking for additional opportunities. I want you to take a look at Tom and what he's doing over there at New Western, and maybe that could fit in with what you're doing. There are financing options for those of you that took on hard money loans and are looking to get out of them, maybe cash out your equity, maybe convert that to a long-term type financed loan. But definitely seek your options because they are out there, but always, and I mean always, work with an expert. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, but we will catch you on the next one. Welcome to Key Factors Podcast, where knowledge meets ambition in the fast-paced world of real estate and mortgage. I'm your host, Mark Jones, bringing you the latest insight, trends, and expert advice to navigate this dynamic property market. In each episode, we dive deep into the heart of the industry, dissecting market movement, exploring investment strategies, and unlocking the secret to real estate success. Whether you're a seasoned professional, an aspiring investor, or simply looking to stay ahead of the curve, this is the ultimate guide to making informed decisions in the world of property and real estate. So grab a seat and let's uncover the key factors that make all the difference. Welcome to Key Factors Podcast. Let the journey begin.